Welcome back. This is Eric from the African Homestead. Today is it's a new day, another day of blood, sweat, maybe some tears. Really just hard work, manual labor today. Going to finish digging the foundation for the shipping container. Hopefully cast the footers tomorrow. We're going to do some sand mining on the road, which I'll bring you along for that. We're going to do some gravel mining on the road instead of using crushed rock. We're gonna have that harvested right on the road surface. So that's how we do it here in the bush. And at the same time, we're going to continue cleaning up the job site. As you can see, the guys working behind me. Stack up all the sticks that have been stripped of their limbs. Use that to make some biochar in the coming week or two. And let's see what else. Maybe, God willing, if we make it far enough, we'll start de-stumping, because I need to be able to drive a car up here and eventually the semi trailer to deliver our shipping container. So a lot of hard work today. Thankfully, at this point, it's still overcast. We were up at 5:30 this morning for devotions at the church, and then gathered the team together. We're supposed to be here working by 8. We made it about 30 minutes late, which is a lot better than yesterday because we didn't get here until 10. So today I think it's a smaller crew, but I think that even with smaller numbers, with the added time, we're going to be a little more productive. And so hope you enjoy the day with me. Thanks for coming along. Bye-bye. Bye-bye? No, let's keep talking. One thing that I was lamenting about a little bit the last few days is that when we had chopped down all the bush here, I wanted to get it piled up into these piles like behind me, so that it could start decomposing and turn into compost. And I want to do it while all the leaves were still on it, so I wouldn't lose that nitrogen and just end up with a bunch of carbon and have it off balanced. Of course, those of you who compost regularly and who use a lot of different things, you know, there's a few ways to make great compost. There's a lot of ways to make good compost, and so this is I think, going to be good compost. But one of the things that I noticed, because it was 6 days before we started piling these up, and on some of the stuff, the leaves are still there. As you can see behind me, there's still some green in there, but a lot of the leaves have dropped, and I'll show you a clip here. And what's really great about what dropped is it's covering the ground, and so all of this topsoil here is not being exposed to the sun. It's being protected from the rain that's going to be beating it down in the coming months. It's going to decompose. It's going to hold some of the nutrients. And so really, I'm kind of glad it worked out the way it did, because all of this land that we're working on right now at this point has a few inches of leaves on it. And so it's not all bad. So that last scene was shot several weeks ago. Right after I shot that scene, I was visited by the town chief on the building site. And he came up, we greeted each other, everything looked good. He complimented us all on all the work we've been doing. And so I took a couple minutes, I showed him where we're digging the foundation for the shipping container, and where I've decided to locate the house, the main house, and then where I'm going to locate the small 2-bedroom house that we're going to build first. And he stopped me and asked me, he says, well, why are you deciding to put the houses there? And so I took a couple minutes just to explain, well, the reason is because we want to maximize the sunlight hours, because we're going to be using solar power. There's a possibility of setting up a windmill. It's nothing, we don't know the wind well enough yet if that's going to be a possibility, but that's why we picked a hilltop location. Also, we want to stay above the swamp because of the mosquitoes. We want to be able to see the land all around us, just as part of crop security. There's just a variety of reasons, and I position the house in a certain way so that the long side of the house will be hit by the prevailing winds, will help keep it cool inside. And so I explained all of that to him, and then he suggested, well, maybe you should go and brush behind the shipping container, and there's a vast area of flat ground that direction, and you can just locate the house there instead. And I thought it was kind of strange, because I just explained all the reasons why I picked this particular spot to put a house, and the land that we have is like 50 acres surrounding this building site. And so I just thought it was kind of strange that he was suggesting I move the house, but I want to be respectful, so I listened. And then he said something about where we had stopped brushing the ground in between the building site and that house that I showed you in a previous video, and the farm this other guy had made. And I said, well, no, the reason we stopped there was because he's planted pineapple. And, we're not going to go and tear up his pineapple. We're going to let him harvest it before we take over that farm. And he's kind of paused with a strange look on his face, and I knew something bad was about to happen. So I just asked him straight out. First I explained, I said, well, I was told that the town leadership, the chief, you, the elders, had met with the individual who had built this house and was planting all these trees and farming this. You'd met with him and told him that he wasn't authorized to be working there. In fact, in the past, you told him not to plant trees and not to build a house. And this land was for another organization, and he shouldn't be doing that. And he did that anyway. And that after explaining all of that, you told him he needed to leave the place, and he needed to abandon it, give it up, and we were going to take it over. And I was told he agreed. Well, it became very clear very quickly that what I was told was not accurate. And he had not agreed. In fact, he had heard that we were working there, and he didn't like us working right beside his house. And he was planning to come to the town the next day to basically lodge a complaint against us with the town elders. And so I immediately stopped the work, and because I kind of knew where this was going to go. This gentleman, even though he lives in the city, he has a farm there. He's what's known as the son of the soil. He's the son of the town. He was born and raised in this town, and he has connections in this town. And he has investment on this property. And so we agreed the next day we would be in the meeting with him and the town leadership. And that meeting happened, and it became very clear that he was claiming this, he had his investment there, and he was not going to give it up. And I've been faced with this in the past, and like I said in the earlier video where it talked about the process we've been going through for 5 years, that sometimes for the sake of peace and for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of our testimony as believers, you walk away and you look another direction. And so by the end of that meeting, that was the decision that we made. Even though we had legal right, we have documents that says he should not be there, that says that's our right to be there. And we could have taken him to court, but he had the support of the family in the town, his family. He had the support of some of the town leadership, and we could have won legally, but in hearts and minds we would have lost. And so we talked with the town leadership about some other options, and I shared my disappointment. I shared my frustration and my anger with them. One of the reasons I'm taping this now, and I didn't tape it a few weeks ago, is I needed time to process what was going on. I needed time to work through that, because I would have recorded things and comments that I'd later regret, and I would have said things that I shouldn't have said, and so I have a different outlook now, and you'll see in the coming videos why I say I have a different outlook. A wise man once told me that God closes doors primarily for two reasons: either for your protection or for your provision. And in our time in Liberia, I've watched him close multiple doors, and sometimes for one or two of those reasons, sometimes for both reasons. And so this was one of those times where I'm not sure he closed it for our protection, but he definitely closed it for our provision. And so we agreed to come back the following week to look at some other options. And I'm not going to spill the beans here. You'll have to watch the next video. What we ended up finding, and the direction we're going. But it's all good. It all turned out for the best. One thing that I can say is that I feel very confident that the direction we're going now is the right direction, and that what you're going to see, this is not a scripted thing that I have planned out, and I know exactly where we're going to be working and doing every day for the next 6 months. In some ways, yeah, I've got my general plans of how I want this homestead to develop, how I want this ministry to develop. But in other ways, I'm flying by the seat of my pants, and I don't know what's around the corner. And that's part of the exciting thing about when you turn your life over to God's will and to His plan, and you release your control. It can be a roller coaster, and it can be scary, and it can be angering, and it can be frustrating. It can be a whole variety of emotions on that continuum. But there's no better place to be than in the center of God's will. And sometimes that means we're going to go through pain and challenges and tough valleys. At other times, we're going to be able to experience indescribable joy and peace and happiness, and that's all part of following where Jesus wants us to go, what He wants us to do, and that's what I've given my life to. So, thanks for coming along. There's some great stuff coming up. I'm really excited to share it with you, and I hope you continue to follow along. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel, click the like button, share it. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.